Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Valaery Rose Show. I'm your host, Valaery Rose, and welcome to 2026. This episode is going to be all about self-care as Latinas and why it's so hard to put ourselves first. Many of us grew up believing that we need to sacrifice so much, but what happens when we sacrifice ourselves? What does it lead to? Now, it can be hard to put ourselves first, but remember that in order to fully serve others, whether it's your family, your friends, your community work, you must first pour into yourself. And today I'm doing that with a special guest who is a first gen Panamanian-American licensed clinical social worker, a holistic therapist who founded Glow in Therapy, Inc., which is a private mental health practice providing online therapy. Her work centers around the power of developing inner peace through ancestral healing, meditation, breath work, and other spiritual practices, which you'll learn all about because she's going to give you all the details. She specializes in helping women and couples of color. Help me welcome the lovely Gloria Osborne-Sheeler. Of course, girl. How you feeling about being here today?
I'm feeling really good. I want to thank you for inviting me to come out today. I'm really
Absolutely.
excited about having this conversation together.
Yep, it's definitely going to be a powerful one. So before we jump into the topic at hand, feel free to share with us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned, my
Yep.
name is Gloria Osborne-Sheeler. I am a first generation Panamanian-American.
Yep.
I was born in Panama. I
Mm-hmm.
immigrated here to Los Angeles when I was 4 years old and have lived just the majority of my life here all throughout Los Angeles.
Yep.
And my passion for helping others and wanting to become a therapist started at age 14.
Oh,
So
wow. Very young.
I had my own therapy
Mm-hmm.
experience and learned that therapy was a profession. And I was like, wait, I could definitely do this. I know
Mm-hmm.
how to talk to people.
Right.
I've been through some things, and
Mm-hmm.
I really just planted that seed for me to pursue that as my career. And so I'm very grateful I was able to make that become a reality,
Yeah, absolutely.
and just being able to have my own business today that
Yeah.
allows me to provide for my community really means a lot.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And thanks for sharing that because it's that personal experience and that strong, like burning desire to become that. And you actually doing it and bringing your professional experience and personal experience to really help the community is such a beautiful thing. And it's nice to know that you were born there, grew up there, and you have the different identities of the culture over there and then the culture over here, which leads me to like cultural conditioning and identity. So what would you say is something that you realize that in regards to self-care growing up in your family, was self-care something that was prioritized? Was it something that you knew about, or was it something that you learned along the way through your own desire to become this therapist and heal yourself and work on yourself?
That's a great question.
Mhm.
So, self care was definitely not modeled in my home.
Yeah.
Like many other Latinas, this
Mhm.
comes up in sessions with my clients.
Yeah.
And what we find is that a lot of the women,
Mhm.
especially in our culture, prioritize taking care of other.
Right.
So our Latino culture
Mhm.
really encourages us to take care of other through food, keeping the house clean,
Mhm.
providing for the family. So there's always this preoccupation about taking care of other. So
Right.
it's not focused on ourselves. And so for me, the way that I would see self-care happen
Mhm.
in my home is by the meals that my grandmother would make, that my mom would make, that my tias would make. But aside from that,
Mhm.
it really was not modeled for me. And then
Yeah.
that is also very consistent among the clients that I see.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% that it's a very common thing in the Latino household. And as you mentioned therapy as well, would you say that in the Latino community, therapy is something that's not really sought out because we've been taught to, oh, keep your emotions to yourself. No le digas tus problemas a la otra gente. And things like that, that also inspired you to show that there is so much power in personal development, therapy, and healing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, something that I grew up with was terapias para locos. Like only
Yeah.
crazy people
Right.
go to therapy. It's not something that's easily accessible
Right.
for people in the community to say, hey, I'm going to put myself first and go talk to somebody about the problemas de la familia. All of that is really like we're taught,
Yep.
let's just keep it in the home. Let's not talk to anybody about it. And so for anybody who does make that brave courage decision
Mm-hmm.
to seek therapy, I say this is one of the bravest things you can do. Learning to put yourself first, learning to honor yourself,
Right.
and really taking care of yourself in this way, and learning that there is a space for you to make sense of all the feelings you're experiencing.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's very brave and it can be challenging because even though one knows that it's good for ourselves, what would you say is the response that friends and family that don't believe in like personal development or therapy, how their reaction of non-belief affects the person that is going to seek therapy and seeking personal development? Because it must be such a hard feeling to know that you're working on yourself and not having like those people close to you supporting you and making you feel seen and heard. So how have you navigated that with your clients as they express that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
great question. So many of my clients don't tell anybody that they're
Mm.
going to therapy, or they wait some time. They come in
Okay.
the doors, they do some healing, maybe 3, 4 months in,
Okay.
all here in session. Oh, I told my mom
Oh, that's
I'm in
great.
therapy, or
Mhm.
oh, I told my sister I'm in therapy. I
Mhm.
recommended you to a friend because you've really helped me.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times people feel that they can't share these things with others because of that, the stigma of
Right.
what does this mean? If I'm going to therapy, I think another thing for us in our culture is it's really hard to ask for help
Right.
and just to seek that help,
Yeah.
right? And so
Mhm.
coming in the doors,
Yeah.
you're already doing something that culturally you haven't been taught to do.
Right.
So again, that's that bravery, that courage that it takes to say, okay, I can't manage this on my
Right.
own. And it's okay to seek a sounding board just to make sense of the things that you're going through.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's another form of breaking those generational patterns or cycles and breaking the stigma on mental health and seeking the help. So, would you say that as they're going through their own journey, meaning like your clients or someone seeking therapy or just wanting to better themselves, that they're also modeling new ways and habits for their families?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Something that I teach my clients a lot
Mm-hmm.
about is not only just recognizing your emotions,
Right.
but also making sense of them,
Mm-hmm.
inviting them into your life, becoming
Right.
friends with your emotions, but
Yeah.
also learning how to set boundaries. That's another thing in
Yeah.
our culture. Again, there's
And
a
it's
lot of
hard.
blurred
Mm-hmm.
lines. We're
Right.
constantly preoccupied about other. So doing something like coming to therapy can feel really scary, and
Mm-hmm.
also at the same time can feel just selfish. Like, okay, do I matter? Do my feelings matter? Is what I'm going through that big of a deal? There's also a tendency to minimize or downplay what we're
Yeah.
going through, or it's not that bad. And so just being able to provide that sounding board for
Right.
clients to make sense of what it is that they're going through really helps people just ease that feeling of like, okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing the right thing.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And I love that you provide that safe space and reminding people to honor their emotions because growing up, I know for me, emotions or mental health wasn't something that one would speak about.
Mhm.
And we both know that like suppressing those emotions end up blowing up into something negative, whether it's in some sort of behavior, some sort of choice, or just like the feelings building up of not feeling good. So I love that you provide that safe space. What would you say to someone that is in therapy or just seeking to better their life, dealing with family members that consistently shut them down or make them seem like they're the black sheep or se creen mucho because they're actually seeking the help and setting those boundaries to ultimately like keep their peace and focus on their growth?
Yeah,
Mhm.
another great
Yeah.
question. I think that therapy is an individual process.
Right.
Anybody that comes into therapy, you don't
Mhm.
have to share with everyone or make this big announcement
Yeah.
that you're doing the work.
Mhm.
I think family members start to notice that something is going on
Yeah.
because the way that you show up and interact and communicate
Right.
begin to change,
Mhm.
begin to shift
Yeah.
and evolve. And so if there's questions about that, oftentimes I see this happen when people start to set boundaries.
Mhm.
Because family members aren't used to boundaries and
Right.
they might not be open to the boundaries that you're setting.
Yeah.
And so sometimes there's pushback. So part of the work that I do is not only teach clients how to set boundaries,
Mhm.
but also prepare for the pushback because
Right.
you will feel that guilt. Am I doing something wrong? Oh no, I've upset mom.
Yeah.
But just recognizing that taking care of yourself means maintaining your peace. And
Absolutely.
sometimes to maintain that peace, you have to set and execute those boundaries.
Yeah, and when that execution of the boundaries set in and one starts feeling that pushback and that guilt, what tips would you provide for one to just get through it? Because I can definitely relate to that where I've healed in so many ways and have broken so many generational patterns and cycles that sometimes it gets to a point where you completely have to cut off your family for your own well-being. And like you mentioned, it doesn't feel good, but damn, if I continue to feed into their nonsense, it's only going to affect me and it's going to affect my peace. So, how would you say is like the best way to navigate it, even when setting those boundaries, but knowing that they still look at you like it is la mala or you're changing? Because we know that once you set those boundaries, things will change. And sometimes it feels like you're grieving the loss of what once was and the lifestyle that you're used to, the setting that you're used to being with your family. So, how would you say one could navigate that?
This comes up a lot in
Mm-hmm.
sessions with my clients. Like, how
Okay.
do I handle this
Right.
when it comes up? And something that I encourage clients to do is to remember the reason why you're setting this boundary.
Right.
You're not setting this boundary to make mom upset,
Mm-hmm.
to disrespect dad, to not be there for your sister. You're
Right.
setting the boundary to take good care of yourself. So
Absolutely.
remembering that that is the sole focus,
Mm-hmm.
whatever I have to do to keep my peace, that's what's keeping me in setting this boundary. And so I think that that alleviates some of that guilt
Mm-hmm.
because, yeah, I do deserve to take good care of myself.
Right.
Versus if you're walking in anticipating what the other person's reaction is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
now you're shifting uh, that purpose or
Mm-hmm.
that focus on what they're doing as opposed to your whole reason for doing it to begin with.
I love that, reflecting on one's own self and not allowing like their perception or their emotions to feed into us. That's absolutely amazing. Now that you've shared all the different ways that people can like navigate the cultural conditioning and identity, what would you say are some self-care habits that Gloria does in her daily life to focus on your own personal development, but also being a therapist, it can not really a heavy burden, but there can be some heaviness sometimes where you're constantly hearing about other people's problems and things that they're going through. And you obviously know what you're getting into with this job and you seem like an amazing therapist. So, what are some ways that you take care of yourself personally and professionally to be the woman that you are?
Yeah. So for me, earlier you asked with self
Hmm.
care if that
Yeah,
was something that I developed later on
right.
in life, which the answer to that question is yes.
Okay.
For me, I didn't really learn about what self care was until I was in grad school,
Hmm.
obtaining my master's in social work.
Okay.
And they would talk about the importance of doing self care, especially knowing that you're going into a field where you're going to be hearing a lot of things that
Right.
may be traumatic, that may be heavy, that may weigh on you after some time. The only thing I wish they would have done was really pushed the whole reason why you have to do self care. I
Okay.
wish they would have driven that home a little bit more. Over time, I've learned to acknowledge self care in many
Hmm.
different ways. I
Okay.
look at it from a lens of spiritual self care, physical self care, emotional self care, financial self care.
Yeah.
So I kind of break it down into different categories. But of course, I do have my daily things that I do. I start my morning off very specifically. I wake up in the morning. Upon awakening, I do prayer, I do
Mhm.
meditation, and then I usually start my day with some sort of recovery meeting. So I
Okay.
am somebody who is in recovery. I have 6 years and 10.5 months
Okay.
of sobriety.
Oh,
And so, thank you
congratulations.
so much.
That's nice.
And just that question alone, like,
Yeah.
how do I practice self care as a therapist? It took me some time after becoming a therapist to realize that I was coping negatively. Happy hours after work would
Mhm.
extend into happy hours in my home by
Mhm.
myself. And so after some time, I realized I needed to take care of me in better ways. And that's when I pursued sobriety. And I've
Mhm.
been on that journey since 2019. So, being on that journey has provided me the experience of learning how to meditate,
Okay.
of learning how to pray, and learning how to just prioritize myself and the relationship that I have with myself. So, those are just some, typical things that I do daily. I also work on physical self care. So, I
Mhm.
go to the gym, I do things like yoga, I
Nice.
cycle. And so, yeah, just
Yeah.
honoring my body, honoring my mind,
Yeah.
honoring my spirit are ways in which I tackle self care.
I love that. It's very holistic because you're focusing on the mind, body, and soul. So you mentioned like movement within your spirit, which leads me, I would love to learn more about what ancestral healing means to you and the different spiritual practices that you practice because I know this is a really good topic to cover because it's applicable to anyone and everyone, despite what religion they believe in, if they're not religious people. So I'd love to hear your take on that and what it is that you provide, whether it's personally for yourself or with your therapy services.
Ancestral
Mm,
healing for me is about a call back home
okay.
to your roots, really looking at where does my story begin?
Hmm.
And so for me, I mentioned I'm from Panama.
Yeah.
And being from Panama, I have indigenous
Yeah.
ancestry, I have Spanish ancestry, and I also have African ancestry.
Oh,
So for
wow.
me, being able to be on that journey of ancestral healing meant uh, reconnecting with where my story begins and
Okay.
looking at my lineage and looking at the relationship that my mom had with her mother, with her grandmother, and then looking at the stories that have been passed down over time. And aside from just learning about the history of
Hmm.
your lineage, it is also about incorporating things like meditation,
Okay.
breath work,
Hmm.
and also something I do is I follow moon cycles.
Oh,
The
okay.
indigenous people of Panama
Hmm.
really work with the moon. And I came to learn that after I got into the moon, after I started my own quest in pursuing ancestral healing, but
Okay.
just following the different cycles of the moon and honoring that as a tribute to honoring the land and
Right.
honoring our relationship with Mother Earth.
I love that. I'm definitely learning a lot from you about Panama. So, you are the first Panamanian that I meet in person. So, I'm like, that's super awesome. The only other Panamanian I know is like someone on social media, but I was like, I haven't, I haven't like connected with that person. So, I love learning these things. Would you say that ancestral healing can apply to someone who doesn't have any connection with like their family? Because as you mentioned, like stories, or you learn from your mother to know like where to pinpoint these certain times to learn more about your roots. Would you say that's possible for someone who is like on their own, not connected to their family, to be able to go deep back into their roots without getting those stories or having that person to connect to and remind them of where they really came from?
I think so. I
Okay.
think it's possible when you feel that call to just connect with your ancestors. It's
Hmm.
all about just following your intuition. A
Gotcha.
huge part of ancestral healing is just being connected to your intuition and having that awareness of what it is that's calling you. What is calling me? And maybe you don't have all the answers or you're not able to gather all the information. I think
Hmm.
just following that intuitive pull
Yeah.
towards something. Like for me, like I mentioned,
Hmm.
working with the moon, I didn't know that my indigenous ancestors in Panama followed the moon. I just felt this call to start working with the moon and just learning about the moon
Yeah.
and learning about the cycles and what it means and incorporating it into my daily life. And so I think that you can, whether or not you have access to stories,
Gotcha.
start a journey with ancestral healing.
Okay, I love that. And now that we're on the topic of the moon, it reminded me, I'm like, this is like a perfect time to bring up the event that you have coming up.
Oh, yes.
And tell us more about your upcoming event. I believe it's in March.
It's in March.
Okay,
Yes.
dive into that.
Yeah, so my event is called Reclaiming My Glow,
Okay.
and it's a workshop for women.
I love that title.
Oh, thank you. It's really focused on guided reflection, community connection,
Okay.
and hypno breath work. I've been doing hypno breath work for the past 4 years with a wonderful individual who is going to be facilitating
Okay.
the hypno breath work portion of my workshop. But part of the reason why I'm doing the workshop is because it's the springtime when I've chosen to do the workshop. So it's renewal, it's new. It's a great check-in after we've had 3 months into 2026. And it's an opportunity for me to also incorporate my affirmation cards that I've created, which are also called Reclaiming My Glow. And so the premise of this workshop is for women to come, to have a reset, and to also familiarize themselves with what it means to be reclaiming my glow.
Yeah.
Recognizing that your light was never lost. Your glow has always been there. It's been about you having that awareness and reconnecting with it.
I love the title so much. As I hear you say it, I feel like a glow in myself. Like you just feel like this illumination where you're like, So I love it. And now that you mention your cards,
Yes.
we're for sure going to remind the audience where to get the cards and all of that good stuff and where to connect with you. But I feel like it falls in line so beautifully with your event. So let's for sure take some time to you share what your cards are about and take this time to literally present it however you want. If you need me to like volunteer with something, let me know, but take the floor with that.
Okay. And just to go back, the workshop is happening March 21st from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Gotcha.
So I will definitely provide information on how to register for the workshop.
Yep. And I'll definitely make sure to link it at the bottom of this video so that everyone knows exactly where to go, and it'll be posted like just in time to continuously promote it. So y'all don't forget where to go to secure your spot.
Thank you so much.
For sure.
And it is happening at a community center called Corazon Counseling in Riverside.
Gotcha.
And it's a wonderful place for anybody who identifies as a Latina just to become aware of and just to connect with the center and everything the center has to offer.
Perfect. I love it. It's like extended resources aside from that beautiful event itself.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Okay. All right. So these Reclaiming My Glow cards are a affirmation deck that I've created. It started in 2019 when I became sober.
2019 sounds so pivotal with all of the transformative. That was a transformative period for you.
Oh,
That's
it definitely was. 9 months into my sobriety is when I started my business, my private practice.
Wow.
Yes. And so when I got into sobriety, I came up with this idea of A through Z concepts and an affirmation with the concept.
Okay.
Over time, the idea evolved, and then I kind of set it aside. But then when I had my child in July of 2024, I was going through a period of postpartum. So there was a lot of different feelings, emotions coming up. And I had a great friend tell me, hey, this might be a good time for you to revisit some projects that you've started. What are some things that you want to see come to life, but maybe haven't made the time to? And I said, well, I had this A through Z concept that I thought about creating a book with, but I'm not really sure. And she suggested that I come up with these cards.
Ooh.
So I took my time in sitting with the A through Z concepts and thought about if I wanted to use a deck, which mind you, I use a lot of different decks, tarot decks, oracle decks. What would I want this deck to look like? And I wanted everything to just be on the card so that I wouldn't have to have a booklet and look into the booklet and just be overwhelmed with all the information.
A one-stop shop on the card.
Exactly. And so the A through Z, I kept the affirmation, but I added 2 more affirmations. So it's a total of 3 affirmations.
Okay.
And then 3 reflection questions.
Ooh.
And what you decide to do with a card is up to you.
Okay.
You can pull a card and go into meditation and say the 3 affirmations, look at the 3 questions and take that into meditation. Or you can also choose to journal to
Mhm.
deepen your reflection on the questions that are presented on the
I
card.
love that. And they're both very powerful ways. It just depends which one the person looking at the cards chooses, like, in alignment to go with.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. And so this is my project. This is the first project I've come out with
That's
for
awesome.
Glow and Therapy.
Mhm.
And so anybody who purchases a deck is going to get some information on how to utilize the deck.
Okay.
You're definitely going to get some information on myself and the author who is,
Mhm.
or excuse me, the illustrator,
Okay.
who is also a good friend of mine. She beautifully designed each one of these cards to have some sort of empowering image of a woman embracing the concept of whatever mental health topic is on the card.
Yeah, that one looks pretty, and
Okay.
it's like the girl using the flowers, like, covering the boobs. It's, like,
Yeah.
honoring the woman's body, but being secretive and flowering the
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Graceful.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. I
Graceful.
love it.
So, yeah, why don't we go ahead and pick a card? So, I
Okay.
will ask you any letter A
Okay.
through Z.
Okay.
What do you feel a call for?
I feel called to the letter V.
V. Okay. All right. So V. Oops. Let's see here. The letter V is victory.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
Good way to start off 2026. I love that
Yes,
card.
Victory. Okay. So the affirmations on this card are I reclaim my glow and rejoice in my own victory. I see myself as victorious over my challenges. I embrace myself as a victor on my healing journey.
Damn, that just like that hit my soul so much that I'm like everything you're saying just felt so in alignment with the thoughts I was having going into 2026, the things that I've been feeling, the like potential future endeavors. And you know what stood out to me the most was the reclaiming my glow part. I'm like, shit, this is my sign to just go to your event. I definitely want to go, but I'm like, there was something I have going on that week that I'm like, am I gonna be able to make it or
Mhm.
not? But I think honestly, this was my sign to like, girl, go, because I already love your energy through social media. And just so everyone knows, this is our first time meeting. And
Mhm.
I feel like we've connected so very well. I love the presentation of the cards and just everything that you said on that card just hit the soul. Like later, I got to definitely go and meditate on this. But thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
that.
Can I share the 3 questions
Of
for
course.
deepening?
Yes.
So, am I willing to see myself as victorious? How do I currently celebrate my victories? What is my greatest victory I am most proud of?
Ooh, okay. You know what? I'm down to answer those questions. I feel like I'm in a therapy session right now. Like, I love this. Okay, so the first question was, am I feeling victorious?
Mhm.
Yes, I'm feeling victorious because when I set goals, no matter how challenging it can be or any roadblocks that come about, I always do what it is that I need to do by
Mhm.
honoring my emotions, even though I get frustrated with certain things or sad about certain things, and just continuously having that commitment to follow through and, get shit done pretty much. And the second one is, remind me again.
How do I currently celebrate my victories?
I feel like I'm really good at celebrating any victory, and it's always in different ways. It could be like going out to have like a nice little meal by myself, going on a hike. I absolutely love hiking. So sometimes I'm like, you know what? It was a really good day, or I achieved this goal. Let me go on a nice hike, be out in nature, reflect on what it took to get there and how it feels to be victorious and accomplish a certain something. So I always
Mhm.
try to find different ways, or, going to get my nails done or doing a little something, or even writing it down. I love how you're mentioning journaling and meditation and breath work because they're all powerful tools that continue to pour into ourselves and remind us of the things that we've gone through, what we're currently feeling, and preparing for the future. Love that. And the
Mhm.
final question.
Final question. What is my greatest victory I am most proud of?
I would say my greatest victory is focusing on personal development because it truly changed my life. It's a scary decision to make when you leave everything that you've known and you jump into the unknown and you start like peeling back the layers of who you are to really find out why it is that you became the way to be, knowing that you have the power to create your own future. And I think a big thing for me is just taking the dive into personal development and consistently staying committed to being like, you know what, every day, every week, every month, every year, I want to work on becoming better and just really being anchored in who it is that I want to be. So I love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it
Thank
too.
you. Thank you for sharing these cards. It's a
Yeah.
very reflective moment and it just feels like so peaceful and so grounding. So I really thank you so much for bringing them and sharing them here with us. Where can someone find these cards if they want to purchase?
Yeah, right now I'm just doing word of mouth. So
Okay.
if you hear about them, you see them on social media,
Okay.
just shoot me a DM. The cards are $33 and
Gotcha.
you can pay for shipping, which is
Mm-hmm.
$8. And I offer payment through Venmo
Okay.
or Zelle. And
Awesome.
then if you need some other sort of payment, I
Mm-hmm.
can arrange for that as well.
I love
But
that.
yeah, it's just word of mouth right
Okay.
now. I'm not feeling this pressure to
Mm-hmm.
just hustle and bustle,
Yeah.
sell these cards. I really want it to just be if you feel called to, you feel a connection with the cards,
Got it.
reach out and
Okay.
I will provide you with the information.
To get it.
Eventually, at some point, I'll put them on my
Yeah.
website, but I'm taking my time.
Absolutely. And it seems like you have been taking your time with this. And I love that we mentioned that because not everything needs to be rushed, right?
No.
And you've planted this seed since 2019. And sometimes we got to put things like on the back end and be like, I ain't going to get to you right now because something's going on in life. Or it's just, they say there's like a right time for everything, but sometimes we never know when the right time is. And you can be working on something and you planted that seed. And over the years, you were still watering it and now it's starting to sprout, girl. So I love that. And you mentioned that they can reach out to you. So is it going to be like DMing you on
DMing me.
Instagram, email type of communication to like get these cards?
A DM
Okay.
on Instagram works
Okay.
best, or you can comment on a reel that you see
That
on
has the cards.
Instagram.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool. Sounds good. I'll make sure to like put all of that information in the description box below as well.
Thank you.
And I feel like these cards tie into our next topic, which is like guilt, burnout, and emotional labor.
Mm.
Because pulling out one of those cards can help you feel grounded. So, tapping into guilt now, why do you think guilt shows up so strongly when Latinas choose rest or boundaries, especially growing up knowing like, oh, you can't take a break until everything's been clean, everything's been cooked, the kids are okay, husband's okay, family members are okay. And then by the time you rest and relax, it's like something else keeps coming.
Of
Hmm.
course. So, just to kind of retouch,
Yeah.
in Latino culture, there's this preoccupation with other, right? And
Yeah.
so, doing something like turning the focus on ourselves is
Yeah.
going to feel so foreign. So, this preoccupation of other, taking care of the household,
Yeah.
whether it's feeding, whether it's financially, whether it's achieving your educational goals and going to college and then getting a job
Yeah.
after, there's a constant preoccupation with what are you doing? So
Hmm.
there's that productivity. How much are you producing? How much are you doing? How is the image of what it is you're portraying to the outside world of how successful the family is?
Right.
So there's always this preoccupation with doing. And if you're not doing, then you're being
Yep.
lazy, then you're being unproductive, then what is it that you're doing with your life, right? And so I think that's where the guilt begins to show up
Right.
because we don't know how to rest.
Hmm.
We don't know how to slow down. We don't know how to take care of ourselves in ways that don't include taking care of others.
I love that. And what would you say are some recommendations to give to the Latinas out there? Because I think every culture takes in self care in different ways. For some cultures, it's going to get your nails done, your hair done, an expensive spa day. But you and I know that self care goes beyond that. Like, that is really nice. But sometimes some households don't have the finances for that. And then they believe that anything else they do outside of those expensive self care activities is not self care. So, what would you say are some inexpensive, immediately like resourceful, at hand's reach activities that women can do, excuse me, at home to pour into their self care?
Self care is
Mhm.
all about spending time with yourself.
Right.
So you don't necessarily have to spend money to
Mm-hmm.
spend time with yourself,
Yep.
right? And so for me, journaling
Right.
is one of the easiest ways, accessible ways to practice self care.
Mm-hmm.
Doing something called a 5-minute brain dump, setting a timer on your phone for 5 minutes and just allowing yourself to write about whatever it is that comes to mind.
Okay.
That's you spending time with yourself and just seeing what is it that my soul is trying to communicate to me right now.
Yeah.
Doing something like creating a playlist of
Mm-hmm.
your favorite childhood songs. Those are instant feel good songs. They bring you back to childhood.
Yeah.
It's nostalgic. That's something everybody has access to. Create a playlist that works for you. Play the playlist 5 to 10 minutes a day. Connect with your body. Dance if you feel like you need to.
Yeah.
Those are all ways to practice self care. And another easy way is trying a new recipe. Maybe
Okay.
it's something you've been thinking about or you've been wanting to do, or we can get so stuck in the routine of cooking the same things.
Mm-hmm.
But looking up a new recipe or looking up a new baking a recipe could be something that you could easily do, and then it's going to provide for the family,
Right.
but at the same time, give you that opportunity to get creative with embracing a new recipe.
I love that. Those are really good recommendations. And even then, sometimes some women might say, "Oh, it's hard for me," or "I don't have the time because of my kids or my husband or other family members, like taking care of their parents." What do you have to say to the women that mention that they don't have the time?
A lot of people will say that.
Yeah.
I don't have time.
Mhm.
But you make time for the things that you really wanna make time for. And then you
Absolutely.
have to ask yourself, how much time does this realistically take?
Mhm.
I gave the idea of a 5-minute brain dump. That's
Yeah.
5 minutes. I think everybody has 5 minutes to just say, "Okay, let me
Mhm.
do this," right? It
Right.
doesn't have to be this extravagant 1 hour, 2-hour fiasco. It can just be a 5 to 10-minute thing that you're doing for yourself. Or maybe
Mhm.
you need to cook. Play the childhood playlist in the background as you're cooking. That gives you that opportunity to connect with that as you're doing something else that you might need to check off your to-do list.
Great recommendations. Now, when they get to the point of not taking care of themselves, and sometimes I've heard too, like, "Oh, I'm not going to take care of myself until my kids are out of the house." But that's years of prolonging one's growth. So, what does the buildup of constant lack of pouring into oneself lead to later on in life? Whether it's like neglecting one's self care, like months, years, to even decades. How does that show up in one's patterns later on in life or their behavior overall?
Well, this is how, what's the word I'm looking for? This is how conditions like
Mm,
anxiety, depression develop over time. It's
yeah.
not like from one day to the next, boom, you have
Mhm.
anxiety. It's a buildup of things, or just constant worry, or just constant restlessness, constant preoccupation about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And so over time, if you're not taking the time to pause and check in with yourself, that's how something like anxiety develops over time. And oftentimes, with clients who come in, they'll tell me they've been feeling this way for 5 years, 10 years,
Mhm.
15 years, and just didn't even have the vocabulary to understand what it is that they're actually going through. Same thing with depression, this preoccupation with other, disconnecting from self. Over time, you're going to begin to experience some feelings of sadness, some feelings of not being good enough. Am I doing enough for the family? And
Yep.
just the consistent pressure over time, right? And
Right.
so we focus on self care
Mhm.
so that we're im investing in the pre-development of
Yeah.
one of these disorders, right? Like, we're
Right.
really trying to take good care of ourselves so that we might not end up developing full-blown anxiety, full-blown depression. It's more of a preventative measure.
Right.
Of course, there's definitely interventions you can
Mhm.
utilize later should you find yourself as somebody who is challenged with one of these disorders,
Right.
but at the same time, you can do some things to help prevent some of those things over time.
Everything you said is literally like healing without guilt, reclaiming one's identity. So I love that you say that because someone can come up with so many excuses. But would you say a lot of it too is maybe like a fear of doing something different, a fear of maybe their partner not being okay with it? I've seen that there's women that try to make a change, but because maybe their partner is not okay with it, it makes it even harder for them to make a change or invest in themselves. So how would you say someone can navigate that challenge of not having a open-minded or supportive partner when they're trying to focus on their own growth?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that the process is your process.
Mhm.
Your process is an individual journey. And unfortunately, not everybody gets to come on the journey with you,
Yeah,
and not everybody wants to come on the journey with you.
right.
Something that I encourage clients all of the time is just because you're learning about these concepts here in therapy,
Yeah.
just because you're having these epiphanies about generational traumas or cycles that your family's been stuck in doesn't necessarily mean that other people not in the therapy space are ready to hear about these things. So I would encourage somebody to really get clear on what is it that I'm seeking
Right.
coming to therapy? What is my goal? And whether that goal really involves anybody else.
Ooh, I love that. And something so powerful you said is not everyone needs to be on that journey with you, and not everyone is ready to change, because sometimes there's people who have all the necessary tools. For example, as you mentioned, you can give all these tools to a client and they're reciprocating it using these tools, applying it to their day-to-day life. But if they teach these tools to someone else who does see the power in it, but they don't want to change, then they're not going to end up changing. And I think that's when the work starts getting so much deeper, where you're like, okay, I know better. Now I got to do better. So I know the tools that Gloria's taught me, or I know the tools that I've learned from some sort of personal development resource. Now I have to start applying it. And it could even mean getting to the point to cutting out and cutting off certain people that aren't a part of that journey. And what would you say is challenging about that? The letting go part of things when someone knows they need to let things go, whether it's a um, non-supportive partner, whether it's friends that are no longer in alignment with that journey of growth. How does one navigate the letting go part?
Great
Hmm.
question. This often comes up in sessions with clients, and I
Hmm.
would say that a huge part of it, the journey for women, many Latina women,
Yeah.
I'll say, because the majority of my clients are Latina women,
Hmm.
have learned to lean on control as a survival trait. Control has helped you achieve some of the things you've achieved,
Hmm.
maintain stability, maintain perceived peace, because control doesn't bring any kind of peace. It is a false sense of calm or a false sense of peace. The
Yep.
more you control, the more unmanageable life actually becomes.
Right, because there's only so much that we can control.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly. And so I would really encourage somebody to look at what is the purpose behind all of this?
Right.
Again, like what is my goal for therapy or for pursuing this for myself? And then also looking at what is in your control and
Hmm.
what is out of your control. Trying to get a partner to jump on board with your therapy journey is not in your control. Your partner either wants to or they don't want to. Now, if they choose not to, then that's none of your business. Their journey is their journey. The
Right.
focus needs to be on you and what it is that you're hoping to achieve in pursuing the therapy journey.
Great tips. You said perceived peace. Define what that means.
It's a perception of
Yeah,
peace,
doesn't mean
right?
it's like a real piece, but
It's
they believe it's
not.
a piece. So
No.
go deep with that. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can speak on my own journey with my history of control.
Mhm.
So control for me, I want to say the word in Spanish, desarrollo, because I feel that the word desarrollar
Yeah.
in Spanish is so much deep than saying develop,
Yeah.
right? It's just so it encompasses the feeling, el sentido that
Yeah.
you want to portray,
Everything
right?
sounds so much powerful in Spanish.
It does. It's just like this extra oomph
Yeah,
that
a
comes
little
through,
spice.
right? And so my experience with control manifested in perfectionism, being perfect in school, being a straight A student, going to all the top colleges, putting makeup on every single day, having my hair done every single day, putting on an outfit, right? And just, again, I need people to believe that I'm perfect, but am I really feeling perfect on the inside? And what I've also learned on my own personal development journey, that perfectionism is not real.
Yeah.
I had a therapist once ask me, how will you know you've achieved perfection? And I couldn't answer her.
That's a great question.
I couldn't answer her because there's no finish line. I'm constantly going after the next bigger, greater thing, thinking that when I reach there, I'm going to feel this sense of perfection. But the real journey is actually learning to be okay with who you are and where you are in your journey, and knowing that that is good enough, right?
Yeah.
That is good enough. And so, yeah, I would say this perceived peace is we think that we have to do all of these things to achieve peace, but then asking yourself, what is my internal landscape looking like?
Oof,
Am I peaceful on the inside? If I'm just showing to the world, this is how my life is, but then I'm a mess on the inside, is it actually really peace?
No. And I love that you say that, because when everything looks good on the outside, but it doesn't feel good on the inside, it's because you're not living a life of authenticity and in alignment with who it is that you truly want to be. And as you mentioned, the only person that's going to define that is oneself. So even as you said, perceived peace, it reminded me perceived success. You're mentioning all these different milestones, and sometimes people think, oh, when I achieve this job or this amount of money or this look, I will then be happy. Instead of choosing, you know what, fuck it, I'm going through all of these things. This is where I'm at now, but let me accept where I'm at and be content with where I'm at and move towards where I want to go. And then I think sometimes, like even with the culture now, success can be defined to many: money, houses, cars, and then they achieve that, children, or even like getting married and wanting to have the title, but them not really being in alignment with the person, more with the title, which then always leads to problems. So what would you recommend? Let's talk about some practical takeaways that people can have, Latinas, men or women, to truly build a life of authenticity. Because when they do, then that's when they're going to really achieve that inner peace.
This is an exercise that I do with most of my clients.
Okay, let's do it.
We look at what it is that you've achieved externally, like on paper. What are the things that make you feel good about you?
Got it.
Now, if we were to take all of those things away, how do you feel about yourself on the inside?
And that like lays out the picture.
Absolutely.
Right.
It will show me like, what is it that you're really struggling with on the inside? Who are you outside of your profession, outside of the car you drive, whether or not you're a homeowner, whether or not you're in a relationship, or you're a wife or a husband, or you have children, or you're making your family proud. We're really looking at, who are you on the inside? Therapy is an inside job. It's about teaching you how to get comfortable with who you are on the inside so that you can fully embrace and reclaim that glow on the outside. Right? Like, again, it's that perception, right? If we're only focused on what's external, any one of those things can be taken away from you at any given point. I see this happen with a lot of the women that I work with who are coming out of really toxic relationships or going through a divorce. And when they're going through these things, they're having to look on the inside. You take away this relationship and now I'm focused on myself, or now I have no other choice but to look at me. How is it that I'm feeling on the inside and what's going on? Same thing with the job. Your job can shift and change over time. You can lose a job, you can lose your car, you can lose your health.
Things you don't have control over that you just don't know.
Exactly. So if you're not clear on how you feel about yourself on the inside, losing any one of those external things will rock your world. It will literally shake your foundation. And if you're not grounded and centered in your authenticity, your authentic truth, who you truly are when nobody else is looking, then you're going to have a really tough time when one of those external factors changes.
Absolutely. Dropping some gems, girl. You're dropping some gems. I absolutely love this. Now, before we get towards the end, what would you say are some practical takeaways that would inspire someone to really look at themselves inside and be like, okay, let me figure out who am I really without all this external stuff? What is like a boundary they can start with, a habit that they can release, or other things that maybe you use in your therapy sessions to encourage people to really dig deep in who they are?
Oftentimes, when clients come in the door, they're challenged with things like things they're not in control of. I was going to
Hmm.
say things like something your mom said or
Yeah.
something your partner said to you, right? We don't have control over the way people treat us, the way people view us.
Yeah.
And so we're stuck with those uncomfortable feelings that might arise or that might come up, right?
Hmm.
And so, something I've learned on my own personal development journey is looking at the buttons that I feel people push and
Ooh.
asking myself, why do I even have those buttons to begin with?
Hmm.
And then what does it look like to remove those buttons? So when
Yeah.
somebody gets under your skin or you notice you have a reaction, that's something else I teach clients how to
Hmm.
consciously respond as opposed to unconsciously react.
And react right from emotion.
Exactly. We're really giving ourselves that sacred pause
Yeah.
before we consciously respond,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
so looking at those buttons and asking yourself, why is it that this is unsettling me?
Right.
What journey do I need to go on to explore what is unsettling me about this situation? 9 times out of 10, when we have a reaction to something that happens, it's not about what's happening. It's about the deep seated emotion from the first time you ever felt that.
Right.
So it's showing up again and it feels intense because you likely haven't worked through the emotion, the
Right.
underlying emotion from the first time it happened, usually sometime in childhood. Right. And
Okay.
so I would encourage somebody to really begin to look at my reactions and what is it that triggers me and begin to do the work on what's underneath that.
Oh yeah. I'm as you're saying all this, I'm like I'm hearing so many key words, finding out what is triggering oneself. But as you mentioned, it always goes back to being grounded with oneself. And what does that mean? That means knowing who you are and not caring if someone has a certain perception of you because that's what they perceive to see, but that doesn't mean it's your reality.
Mhm.
So when we know exactly who we are, those things, even though we can't control them, and as much as we all want to control those things, we control the way it affects us. So I
Mhm.
love how you mentioned that because it all just goes back to their grounding oneself, their internal well-being of emotional stability and mental stability. So thank you so much for those beautiful gems.
Mhm.
Now, before we close out and have any final messages, I love to do something called Elevate in 60. So it's 3 questions, and the goal is for you to answer each one in less than 1 minute. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1. What do you love most about Panama?
What I love most about Panama is the fact that there's so much richness in the culture, indigenous, African, Spanish ancestry, and you just see this displayed all throughout the country and all 9 of its different provinces.
Ooh, I love that. Ooh, you're like, let me add some history there. I love it. Number 2, what do you love most about being Latina?
What I love most about being Latina is just being able to celebrate, having pasión with everything that I do in life, whether it's the way that I show up, the way that I run my business, the way that I celebrate myself. It's always done with passion.
I love that. Passion is like key word for Latinas.
Absolutely.
I feel like it stems from the telenovela sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And number 3, one goal you have for yourself in 2026.
A goal that I have for myself in 2026, I will share a personal goal that I have, and it's really just to overcome my 2026 word is surrender. And so I'm looking to surrender any outdated beliefs, experiences, feelings that I feel are holding me back from fully showing up in my authentic glow, in my authentic presence, without getting too caught up in how other people think or feel about me.
I absolutely love that. And then to add, thank you for answering all these
Yeah.
questions. You really inspired me to, I've never been one to really choose a word myself as I've worked on my personal development and even coaching clients. I've done it with clients, giving them a word, but I never really did that for myself. So when I saw you post that, I'm like, you know what? That is something I should probably start practicing, because in moments of turmoil, or when we feel like our foundation is going to be shooken because of something that's happening, because life's always going to be life, and going back to that one word just really reminds you, like, keep it together, remember why you're doing what you're doing. So I love that you mentioned surrendered, which led me to choose my word of it being anchored,
Mhm.
which I feel like it has a bad note in it, in the sense when you think of anchored, you think you're like stuck in one place. But I love to think of it of like being anchored in who I am and the way I'm moving, and knowing like, okay, this is who I am. Like I'm stuck in this way of knowing that I'm on a continuous lifelong journey of personal development and just really being my authentic self. And whenever something ain't right for me, just reel that anchor back in and keep shipping the sail down until I get to another stop that is grounded and in alignment with who I am. So thank you so much for providing that activity on social media. Now, before we close out, do you have any final messages that you would like to give the audience? Any motivational words?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I hope that this year, 2026, may be a year that you begin to prioritize your relationship with yourself. The quality of the relationship with yourself impacts the relationship you have with other people, impacts the way that you show up in every setting in your personal life. And so, with self care, you can start with one or two things a day, breaking it down in different categories, honoring that relationship with yourself so that you can show up and be the best version of you possible in your daily life.
What a beautiful reminder. Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being
You're
here and
welcome.
sharing all of your wisdom. A reminder about her event coming up in March, right? All of that information is going to be listed down below in the description box. So you'll find her social media platforms, her link to her event, which will also be posted here on the screen, but we'll put the link so you can go and click and reserve your spot. And this is your reminder to choose yourself, love yourself, pour into yourself, because you cannot fully serve others without first pouring into yourself. And finally, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And look at the links below to further connect with us. And again, thanks for being here,
Thank you so
girl. This was
much for having me.
awesome.
This was wonderful. Thank
Perfect. You're
you.
welcome.